Letting go successfully. Lessons learned from Iguana. Have you ever tried to get rid of something and it just will keep hanging on and on? Have you ever tried to sell a house and it just wouldn't sell? Or an unpleasant issue that persists? Or how many of you have had children leave home and you get stuck with all their belongings, including pets? Once upon a time, there was a single parent who sent her son off to college, and I became in charge of an iguana named Aristotle. The green iguana was the size of my thumb when we got him, and after 5 years of eating vegetables, it grew to the length of the bathtub. Well, my son received this beautiful waterfall aquarium that he put up in his bedroom, and that's where the iguana lived. Every day, my son would play with Aristotle. He simply adored his pet, taking total care of him, as I had no interest at all in a mere reptile. Mm-mm. Well, one day my son came to me and he said, Mom, I'm going to camp, and he's got way too much doo-doo to clean up all the time. So I put a litter box and a heating lamp and a rock up on top of the aquarium, and that's going to be his new home. Off to camp he went. Well, a few days later, I came home and I walked into my bedroom after working in the ER to find a big pile of poop on my bed. Now, it's been my experience in our household, if the dog or the cat would get really upset about something, they'd leave me a little present. Admittedly, very rare, but that was a way to get my attention. Well, if you found a big pile of poop like that in your bed, what would you think? Anyway, I realized, putting two and two together, my son was gone, no playmate, locked out of the aquarium. I thought, you know what? This toilet training business is not happening on my watch. I went into the bedroom and I opened the cage, and that took care of that issue. Well, my son returned from camp, and we noticed that when my son put him into the shower 2-3 times a week, he'd immediately do his doo-doos. So out came the broom, the shovel, we'd sweep it up into the toilet. Voila. No litter box, and a little bleach, and it took care of it. Easy peasy. Worked for me. As Aristotle grew in length, he'd roam the house. We had this redwood fixture above the window which looked out over the park, and he liked to hang up there. Once in a while, I'd find the iguana sit there and the cat over there, 6 feet apart. Never did the twang meet, because iguanas have powerful tails they use as a whip when threatened. Now, I never saw it in action, but man, I didn't care to either. So when I approached Aristotle, it was always very slowly to pick him up and carry him to the shower, thinking, what long claws you have, and a big mouth too. During that time, I was gone for a week on a speaking tour, and I had a neighbor come in to take care of him. By that time, I just called him Mr. Iguana. After coming home, I was sitting in the office on the computer, and in comes Mr. Iguana and comes over to my desk. And he did something he never did before. He jumped up on my lap. Oh my God, what do you do with a iguana that now is the length of the bathtub sitting on your lap? Well, I looked down at him and I wondered, do I pet him? Well, I didn't stroke him because I wasn't sure how he'd react. I just simply spoke to him, and like I did to the other animals. And after some time, I just carried him back to his aquarium. very slowly. A few months after my son had gone off to college, I felt sorry for Mr. Iguana, and I remembered that my son had bought a leash for him but never used it. So I decided I was gonna take him out for a little walk. Put the leash on, carried him out, and placed him in the grass, where he sat for 10 minutes. Of course, at that point, I got restless and tried to coax him into moving. Guess what? The leash snapped. Momentary panic overtook me because here's my son's beloved creature loose in the world, and I did not want to be responsible for his lightning streak away from home. Iguanas have two speeds, very, very slow or flash lightning speed. So slowly I got down on my hands and knees and crawled over towards him. Then he would very slowly inch away from me. Well, this dance went all the way down the carport out in the middle of the road. We lived on a cul-de-sac, and I'm thinking to myself, good grief, it's 4 p.m. I'm in the middle of the road, middle-aged woman, following an iguana. What is wrong with this picture? Obviously, it is time for change. So very slowly, I did a 180-degree around him so that I could start guiding him back up the carport and into the corner, where I grabbed him and took him in the house with lightning speed. This took a whole hour. Never again did I attempt to take him out for a walk. For 2 years, I had tried finding him a home. I placed ads in Craigslist, the newspaper, told neighbors, because I was going to do speaking engagements and rent my house out. No, nobody was interested. I called pet stores, getting only this response. Oh, we get way too many calls like this. You're going to have to euthanize him. Well, that was out of the question. No one wanted Mr. Iguana. Yet I believed basically to treat each detail in my life with respect as a work of art, and in time my obligations would become my treasure. Meanwhile, I repainted the whole house, put things into storage, emptied each room, and finally moved Mr. Iguana into my walk-in shower room with a window and a stand for him. Well, my property manager came by to inspect my home because the next day we were going to rent it out. He took one look at Mr. Iguana and said, some people will come walk in here and not say anything, and others will see it and run. After the property manager left, I was in a deep quandary. What would I do? And I'm moving out the next day to a small apartment, and there's really no room there for him. So I sat down on the toilet near the shower, looking up at Mr. Iguana, where he's perched on a stand. And I start thinking aloud and then kind of talking aloud, acknowledging my difficult situation. My life is changing, and I'm moving, and I'm unable to take you with me. And I really don't know what to do. Then I began remembering, you brought joy into my son's life during a very challenging time, to a move to a new high school with 3,000 students, where he came from a very small country school, plus leaving all his friends. I felt deep gratitude for having Aristotle, Mr. Iguana, in our lives. I looked up at him and I thanked him for having been with us. At this point, Mr. Iguana turned his head, cocking it sideways, looking down at me. I suddenly got goosebumps traveling down my arms, thinking, that's crazy. some kind of communication had been acknowledged. Weird. Well, that afternoon I went to work in the emergency room. When at work, a fellow nurse came up to me and said, "Hey, do you still have that iguana? My girlfriend is looking for an exotic lizard because hers had died a month earlier. Trying to find him a home for the last times, and in the last night before moving to my new home, his new home was also located." Well, I ran out to the pet store after work, bought a transportation cage for $100, and his girlfriend eventually built a whole wall unit for him. Plus, she paid me half of the transportation cage fee. I marveled at the outcome. Amazing. There's an old Taoist saying, the right man sitting in his house thinking the right thoughts will be heard 100 miles distance. Albert Einstein said everything in life is a vibration. Nothing rests. Everything vibrates. The whole universe is but a vibration operating at different frequencies and movements. Each one of us is vibrating. We're composed of atoms, which are electrons, protons, and neutrons. Nothing's solid. Everything subtly vibrates. Our thoughts and emotions are a vibrational energy that the universe is responding to. So what thoughts and feelings are you hanging on to right now? What is taking your power? Is it worth the expense? One of the most challenging life lessons is letting go. Whether it's guilt, anger, loss, betrayal, love, change is never easy. We fight to hold on. We fight to let go. One of the greatest moments in life is when we find the courage to let go of what we cannot change. The truth is, unless we let go, forgive ourselves, forgive the circumstances, and realize that the situation is over, we can't move forward. When we let go, we create space for something better. Reevaluate our attachments and release through gratitude. Sometimes we outgrow situations and people, and that's okay. What's not growing is dead. When it falls, let it fall. It's like a tree with its leaves. They fall so healthier ones can grow in spring. Abundance is a process of letting go. What is empty can receive. With gratitude, synchronicity follows. On reflection, why did it take so long for Mr. Iguana to find a home? It was about letting go, feeling soulful gratitude. Yes, I would have taken the iguana with me. However, the result was immediate. The key is feeling gratitude. Gratitude is at the heart of a good goodbye. Website is Claim Your Power to Heal.